I wanted his birthday to be unforgettable, and it was. Just not for the reason I hoped. Because that night, I realized the person I loved most had already moved on. You know those moments when your heart feels so full it could burst? That's exactly how I felt planning Ethan's birthday. We'd been dating for almost a year, and I wanted this one night to be unforgettable, something that would show him how deeply I loved him. I'd been secretly working on it for weeks. I booked his favorite cafe, the one where we first met when he accidentally spilled coffee on my sketchbook. I remembered every detail, the smell of roasted beans, the yellow lights, the song that played in the background. It was our beginning, and I wanted it to be part of his big day. I invited all his friends, ordered his favorite chocolate truffle cake, and even got a guitarist to play his favorite Ed Sheeran songs live. I was so proud of myself. Every little detail screamed love. I even told his mom. She sent me an old childhood photo of him with a message saying, "He's lucky to have you." I smiled reading it, feeling like maybe I was becoming part of his family. The night before the party, I stayed up wrapping his gift, a leather watch engraved with the words, "Forever yours, L." It felt cheesy maybe, but it was real. It was us. On the day of the party, everything was perfect. The lights were set, the cake was ready, and the guests started arriving one by one. My heart raced every time someone entered, but I kept scanning for Ethan. Finally, I saw him walk in. The whole room shouted, "Surprise!" He froze, shocked, his mouth open in disbelief. Then he laughed. That laugh. The one that always made me feel safe. He walked up to me, hugged me tight, and whispered, "You did all this for me." I nodded, smiling so wide it almost hurt. But then he said something strange. "Wait, there's someone I really want you to meet tonight." Before I could even ask who, the door opened again, and in walked a girl. Beautiful, confident, familiar. I'd seen her before in an old photo on his phone. It was her, his ex, Mia. She smiled and walked straight toward Ethan. He hugged her like they hadn't seen each other in years. My stomach dropped. Everyone around was clapping and cheering, but all I could hear was my heartbeat pounding in my ears. I stood there, frozen, holding the cake. The candles flickered like tiny warning signs, and for the first time that night, I wasn't sure if I should still smile. He looked at me and said casually, "Oh, babe, I hope you don't mind. Mia and I go way back." I thought it'd be fun to invite her fun. That word echoed in my head like thunder, and in that moment, my perfect night didn't feel perfect anymore. Would you do if your partner invited their ex to a surprise party you planned for them? Would you stay calm or walk away? I didn't even realize I was still holding the cake until the candles melted halfway down, dripping wax on my fingers. The pain didn't matter. What hurt more was the scene unfolding in front of me. Ethan was introducing Mia to everyone like she was some kind of celebrity guest. "Mia's just moved back to town," he said, smiling too wide, too bright. "We haven't seen each other since college." People laughed, asked questions, welcomed her warmly, and I stood there, invisible in my own surprise party. Mia looked effortlessly beautiful. Wavy hair, red lipstick, a dress that shimmered just enough to catch the light every time she moved. She was the kind of girl who didn't need to try. And worse, she knew it. When she turned toward me, she gave a polite smile. "You must be Lily," she said sweetly. "Ethan's told me so much about you." Her tone was kind, but her eyes, they scanned me like she was sizing up competition. I forced a smile. "Nice to finally meet you." Ethan, completely oblivious to the tension, put his arm around my shoulder. "Yeah, Mia and I were super close back in the day," he said casually. "It's great that we can all hang out now, right?" "Right. Sure. Except it didn't feel right at all." Throughout the evening, she kept finding little ways to slip into his space. A hand on his arm when she laughed, a private joke I couldn't understand, a memory from back then that made him grin like I hadn't seen him grin in months. My friends noticed too. My best friend Emma whispered, "Why is she acting like this is her party?" I wanted to tell her I didn't know. I wanted to tell her that I was seconds away from crying, but I just nodded and took another sip of my drink, pretending not to care. Then came the toast. Ethan stood up, tapping his glass, and everyone quieted down. My heart swelled, hoping he'd say something sweet, something about us. He smiled and said, "I just want to thank everyone for being here, especially Lily for planning all this, and Mia for showing up tonight. It feels like old times, old times." Those two words cut deep. The crowd cheered again, and I clapped too, and because what else could I do? But inside, something cracked. This wasn't the night I imagined. I had planned every second to make Ethan feel loved, but somehow I was the one feeling left out. And when Mia leaned over and whispered something in his ear, and he laughed, that familiar, genuine laugh, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just jealous. I was losing him. If you were Lily, would you confront Ethan in front of everyone? Or wait until the party was over? The laughter around me blurred into background noise. The lights, the music, even the smell of the cake. Everything felt distant, unreal. I stood there smiling like nothing was wrong, while inside I was breaking into pieces that no one could see. Mia leaned close to Ethan again, whispering something in his ear. He turned pink for a second, not embarrassed, but nostalgic. He smiled that half smile he used to give me when we were still new, still exciting. I couldn't take my eyes off them. Every gesture, every glance, every laugh between them was like a small knife twisting deeper. Emma caught my arm. "You okay?" she asked softly. I lied. "Yeah, of course, it's just a little hot in here." But it wasn't the heat. It was humiliation. When Ethan finally walked over to me, I forced a smile. "So, Mia seems really happy to see you," he chuckled, completely unaware of how much it hurt. "Yeah, we just have a lot of catching up to do. She's been through a rough breakup recently." "Oh," I said, nodding. "So this is emotional support?" He frowned slightly, not getting the sarcasm. "Babe, don't be like that. You know you're the one I love." And just like that, my heart softened a little. Because that's what love does, right? It blinds you, forgives too fast, hopes too hard. But then, Mia joined us again, holding 2 drinks. She handed one to him, completely ignoring me. "Ethan, remember that night at the cabin?" She laughed. "The one with the broken heater?" He grinned. "Oh God, yeah. We nearly froze to death. I froze too." The way he said it, the warmth in his voice, it didn't sound like a story from years ago. It sounded recent. Too recent. I tried to act casual. Cabin? When was that? He hesitated for a fraction of a second. Just a blink, but it was enough. Oh, that old trip we took ages ago, he said quickly, avoiding my eyes. Mia's smile faltered for a moment, as if she realized she'd said too much. Then she recovered. Oh yeah, ages ago, she echoed. But my stomach twisted, because I remembered something. 2 months ago, Ethan had gone on a boys' trip to a cabin outside the city. He told me no girls were going, and now all I could hear in my head were her words. The night at the cabin. I tried to stay calm, tried to convince myself it was a coincidence, but when he looked at her again, when I saw that flicker in his eyes, I knew something wasn't right. What would you do if you started to suspect your partner's old friend was actually part of their recent past? I spent the next hour pretending to enjoy the party while my thoughts tore me apart inside. Every smile felt fake, every laugh forced. My chest felt heavy, like my ribs were trapping my own heart. Ethan and Mia were still talking, leaning close, whispering things I couldn't hear, and every time she touched his arm, I wanted to scream. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked outside the cafe pretending to need some air. The night breeze hit my skin, cool and sharp, grounding me for a moment. But then I heard footsteps behind me. Lily? Ethan called softly. I turned around. Hey, I said, forcing calm into my voice. Having fun? He looked confused. Why do you sound like that? I let out a shaky laugh. Like what? Like the girl who threw you a surprise party only to watch you flirt with your ex all night? He sighed, running his hand through his hair. Babe, come on. Don't make this into something it's not. Mia and I are just friends. Just friends, I repeated. Then why did she talk about some night at the cabin like it happened yesterday? His eyes flickered. Guilt, hesitation, something. You're overthinking, he said quickly. No, Ethan, I'm remembering. Because 2 months ago you went on a cabin trip with the guys. And now suddenly she's in town talking about that cabin? He looked down silent. The quiet between us felt louder than any argument. Finally he muttered, It wasn't what you think. My heart pounded. Then tell me what it was. She showed up, he said softly. Unexpectedly. I didn't plan it. I laughed, a bitter, broken laugh. You mean your ex just happened to show up at the same cabin you were staying in with your friends? It wasn't like that, he insisted. We just talked. We didn't what? I cut in. Didn't cheat? Didn't lie? Didn't hide it from me until now? He went silent again, and that silence said everything. The cafe lights glowed behind us, warm and golden, but out here it felt cold like the night itself was watching. I took a step back. You could have told me. I would have understood if you were honest, but you lied. He looked at me, eyes wide and desperate. Lily, please. I love you. It was a mistake. I didn't want to lose you. Tears blurred my vision, but my voice came out steady. You already did. Before he could say another word, I turned and walked back inside. Mia was standing near the counter, sipping her drink. When our eyes met, she froze, and for the first time all night, she looked nervous. I smiled faintly, walked past her, and whispered, Congratulations. You can have him. And as I walked out into the night, I realized something powerful. Heartbreak doesn't just hurt, it teaches. If you found out your partner lied about seeing their ex, would you forgive them? Or walk away like Lily did? The moment I stepped outside, the city lights blurred into streaks of gold and red through my tears. The night was buzzing with laughter and traffic, but everything around me felt quiet, painfully quiet. I clutched my small purse tightly, trying to stop my hands from shaking. I had planned every detail of that night to celebrate love, but it ended up exposing a lie I never saw coming. I walked aimlessly for blocks, my heels clicking on the pavement, echoing the rhythm of my breaking heart. The words he said kept replaying. She just showed up, as if that made it better, as if loyalty was something that just happened by accident. When I finally reached home, I sat on the floor of my room, staring at the half-burned candles I'd bought for his birthday. Their sweet scent filled the room, mocking me with the memory of what I thought we were. My phone buzzed. Ethan. I didn't want to answer, but part of me still hoped for some explanation that could make it all make sense. I swiped to answer. Lily, please. His voice cracked through the speaker. I can't lose you over one mistake. One mistake? I whispered. You lied. You looked me in the eye and said it was a guy's trip. It wasn't planned, he said, voice trembling. She needed someone. She was going through a breakup and You just what? I interrupted, my voice sharp. You just decided to comfort your ex behind my back? You just forgot to mention it? He was silent. I could hear him breathing, could almost picture his face, the same face I used to love without a doubt. Lily, he said finally, I swear I didn't cheat. I just made a stupid choice. I didn't tell you because I didn't want to hurt you. I closed my eyes. You already did. There was a long pause. Then he said quietly, I love you. And it hit me. Maybe he did love me, but love isn't always enough. Love without honesty is like a candle with no flame. It looks pretty, but it gives no warmth. I loved you too, I whispered, but I can't love you through lies. And before he could reply, I hung up. I sat there for hours, listening to the silence. I thought about every memory we shared, every promise, every smile. I thought about the girl who planned a party for her boyfriend, not knowing she was planning her own heartbreak. When the first light of dawn spilled through my window, I made myself a quiet promise that I would never again beg someone to choose me because I deserve someone who already does. If you were in Lily's place, would you believe Ethan's claim that nothing happened? Or is emotional betrayal just as bad as physical cheating? The morning after felt like waking up from a nightmare I couldn't escape. My eyes were swollen from crying, and my pillow was damp with tears that had long since dried. I thought about deleting Ethan's number, but my thumb just hovered over the screen, frozen. I wasn't ready to erase him, not yet. I made coffee, hoping it would help me think straight, but every sip only made my stomach churn. The silence of my apartment pressed in on me until my phone buzzed. I thought it was Ethan again, but it wasn't. It was Mia. My breath hitched. I stared at her name glowing on the screen like a bad omen. The message preview read, Hey Lily, I think we should talk. Talk? About what? How she'd stolen my night, my peace, and maybe my boyfriend too? I almost deleted it. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe the need for truth, made me open it. She'd sent a long message. I didn't mean for any of that to happen last night. I didn't even know you were the one who planned the party. I just came because Ethan invited me and said it was casual. But I think you deserve to know the truth about the cabin. My heart stopped for a second. I read on, my hands trembling. He told you it was a boys' trip, right? It wasn't. He called me 2 days before that weekend, said he needed to clear his head. I didn't think much of it, and I agreed to meet him there. We talked, we laughed, and yes, we kissed. But after that, he pulled away and said he couldn't do it, that he was with someone better. You. My eyes blurred with tears, and I had to set the phone down. The words we kissed echoed in my head like thunder. I'd wanted the truth, and now I had it. Raw, ugly, undeniable. A few minutes later, another message came in. I'm not saying this to hurt you, Lily. I just didn't want you to keep loving someone who still has one foot in the past. He told me he was confused, but last night, the way he looked at you, I think he's realized who really matters. I didn't know whether to thank her or hate her, because in some twisted way, she'd broken me and saved me in the same breath. I sat there, the sunlight pouring through the window, illuminating the half-finished birthday decorations I still hadn't taken down. They looked so cheerful, so mocking. The truth didn't set me free. It shattered me. But maybe from that shattering, something new could start. If you received a confession like Mia's, admitting your partner cheated but regretted it, would you give them another chance or walk away for good? I thought reading Mia's message would give me closure. Instead, it felt like tearing open a wound I'd only just managed to stop bleeding. I didn't reply. I couldn't. What was I supposed to say? Thanks for telling me you kissed my boyfriend? I turned off my phone and sat by the window, staring at the empty street below. My reflection in the glass looked like a stranger. Tired eyes, pale skin, hair tangled from the night before. That girl wasn't the same one who'd planned a surprise party full of laughter and love. That girl was gone. By evening, I finally turned my phone back on. There were 10 missed calls from Ethan, 3 texts, 1 voicemail. I hesitated before playing it. His voice cracked through the speaker, soft but desperate. Lily, please just listen. I know you've heard things, but it wasn't supposed to happen like that. I was stupid. I didn't think it through. I swear to you, I never wanted to hurt you. That kiss, it meant nothing. You mean everything? I closed my eyes, trying not to cry again. His voice still had that effect, gentle, pleading, familiar. I hated that part of me still wanted to believe him. Then he said something that made my heart skip. I need to see you. Please, one last time, just so you can hear everything face to face. If you never want to see me again after that, I'll understand. I paused the message halfway through, torn between anger and longing. He wanted to talk. But talk about what? Another round of it meant nothing? Another apology I'd have to pretend to forgive? My phone buzzed again, another call. Ethan. Against my better judgment, I answered. Lily, thank God, he said quickly. I've been going crazy. I stayed silent. I know I don't deserve to ask, but please, can we meet? I need to explain everything. I don't want to lose you like this. His words poured out fast, tripping over guilt and fear. But the one that stuck was explain. Explain what? That he betrayed me? That he lied? Kissed someone else and let her show up to his birthday like nothing happened? I don't think there's anything left to explain, I said quietly. Please, he whispered. Just once. Tomorrow. Same cafe. I should have said no. I should have hung up. But a small, foolish part of me wanted to hear him. Not for his sake, but for mine. Because sometimes closure isn't about forgiveness. It's about finally understanding the person who broke you. Fine, I said after a long pause. Tomorrow. One last time. The line went silent. Then he whispered, thank you. I hung up, heart pounding, unsure whether tomorrow would heal me or destroy me completely. If you were Lily, would you meet Ethan for closure? Or would you cut off all contact to protect your peace? I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Ethan's face, smiling, lying, laughing with Mia. My mind wouldn't stop replaying the cabin, the kiss, the way he said it meant nothing. By the time morning came, I wasn't sure if I was ready to face him, but I knew I had to. Not because I wanted him back, but because I needed to stop wondering why. I arrived at the cafe early, the same one where I'd planned his birthday. Everything looked the same. The string lights, the smell of espresso, the quiet hum of morning chatter. But the place felt different now, colder. I picked the corner table, the one where he'd hugged me that night and whispered, you did all this for me? Now I sat there alone, my fingers tracing the edge of the table, waiting for the man who'd broken my heart. When he finally walked in, my chest tightened. He looked tired, unshaven, eyes red, guilt written all over his face. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. He walked over slowly, sliding into the seat across from me. Hey, he said softly. Hi, I replied. My voice was calm, but my heart was racing. For a few seconds, neither of us spoke. The silence between us was thick, full of all the words we'd both avoided. Finally, he said, I deserve every bit of your anger. I messed up. I know that I didn't say anything. I just looked at him, waiting. He took a shaky breath. That night at the cabin, I didn't plan for her to be there. I swear. She texted me after months saying she needed someone to talk to. I was confused. Things between us were tense back then, and I just wanted space, so I went. But when I saw her, I didn't leave. I should have, but I didn't, and that's on me. My throat tightened. So you kissed her? He looked down. Yes, once. And I regretted it the second it happened. I wanted to believe him. God, I did. But the trust that once came so easily now felt impossible to touch. Do you know what hurts the most? I whispered. It's not the kiss. It's that you lied. You looked me in the eye and made me feel crazy for asking questions. You made me doubt my own instincts. He swallowed hard. I didn't want to lose you. But you already did, I said quietly. He reached for my hand, but I pulled it away. I'm not doing this anymore, Ethan. I'm done fighting to be enough for someone who can't even be honest with me. He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. I get it. I just wish I could fix it. You can't, I said. Some things don't break. They shatter. And for the first time since it all began, I stood up and didn't look back. If someone you loved admitted to a mistake but showed genuine regret, would you give them another chance? Or is betrayal something you can never forgive? The days after the cafe meeting felt strangely quiet. No more waiting for his texts, no more double checking my phone before bed, just silence. And in that silence, something unexpected happened. I started to hear myself again. At first, it was hard. Every corner of my apartment reminded me of him. The blanket he loved, the playlist we made together, even the mug with his initial on it. For a while, I couldn't bear to touch them. Then one morning, I did. I took a deep breath, grabbed a big box, and started packing. Not with anger this time, but with acceptance. Every photo, every note, every little reminder went inside. It didn't feel like throwing him away. It felt like freeing myself. I called Emma, my best friend, and asked her to come over. She didn't ask questions, just showed up with coffee and that soft, knowing smile she always had. "So," she said, sitting beside me, "how do you feel?" I looked at the box and then at her. "Lighter," I whispered. "Still sad, but lighter." She nodded. That's how healing starts. Not with forgetting, but with forgiving yourself for believing something that wasn't real. That hit me hard. For so long, I'd blamed myself. For missing the signs, for loving too deeply, for not being enough. But maybe it wasn't about me at all. Maybe some people just don't know how to hold something fragile without breaking it. Over the next few weeks, I poured myself into things I'd neglected. I painted again, went for long walks, met new people, and learned to enjoy my own company. I even joined a small art class where strangers became friends, people who didn't know my story, who didn't look at me with pity. For the first time in months, I laughed without guilt. One evening, I found myself at the same cafe again, alone this time, but peaceful. The lights glowed softly, the music was low, and for once I didn't feel haunted by memories. I just sat there, sipping coffee, watching the world move on, and realizing that I was moving with it. Then, I saw Ethan walk by outside. Just a glimpse. His familiar walk, his head slightly down, a shadow of who he used to be. Our eyes met for a brief second through the glass, and for the first time it didn't hurt. It didn't sting. He gave a small nod. Maybe a silent apology. Maybe just a goodbye. I smiled faintly and turned back to my cup. No tears, no heartbreak, just peace. Because some endings aren't tragic. Some endings are just the start of a different kind of happiness. The one you build for yourself. That night, I went home, opened my window, and felt the cool wind brush against my face. And for the first time, I whispered to myself, I'm okay. And I meant it. Have you ever reached a point where letting go felt more powerful than holding on? A year had passed since that night, the birthday that had shattered me. I never thought I'd look back and smile at it, but here I was, standing in the same cafe. Not for Ethan, not for anyone else. This time, it was for me. I ordered a cappuccino, my favorite, and took the corner seat by the window. The string lights were still strung across the ceiling, and the smell of fresh coffee filled the air. The place felt smaller somehow, quieter, softer, like it had been waiting for me to come back. As I sipped my drink, I thought about everything that had happened, the lies, the betrayal, the heartbreak, and finally the healing. I realized that night wasn't just about a birthday, it was about learning the most important lesson: love yourself first. I smiled at the memory of Ethan and Mia, not with anger, not with pain, but with understanding. They were part of my story, but they weren't my future. I had survived, grown stronger, and learned that my worth wasn't tied to someone else's choices. A little girl walked in with her mother, and the mother's laughter reminded me of my own mom. My heart warmed, life moved on, people moved on, and somehow I had too. I pulled out my sketchbook, the one I'd abandoned months ago, and began to draw. My hands moved freely, capturing the sunlight on the table, the swirl of steam from my cup, the gentle rhythm of life around me. For the first time in a long time, I felt truly present. As I looked up from my sketchbook, I caught a glimpse of someone familiar outside, Ethan. He paused, looking through the window at me. His expression was hesitant, almost apologetic. But I didn't move, I didn't smile, I didn't call him over. Instead, I returned to my drawing, feeling a sense of calm I hadn't felt in years. He lingered for a moment, then turned away. And for the first time, I realized I didn't need him anymore. Because I had learned to trust myself, to honor my own heart, to choose my own happiness. The cafe hummed with life around me. Friends chatted, couples laughed, and the world moved on. And so did I. I finished my drawing, closed my sketchbook, and whispered softly to myself, I'm ready for what's next. That night, I walked home under the stars, feeling lighter than ever. The city buzzed around me, full of endless possibilities. And I knew, no matter what the future held, I would never let anyone make me feel less than I am again. Sometimes, the most painful birthdays teach us the most important lessons. Sometimes heartbreak isn't the end and it's the beginning. And this was my beginning. Have you ever experienced a heartbreak that ended up changing your life for the better?